question is the U.S. getting ready to strike Iran? And is Israel getting ready to join in that effort? Is Trump readying the U.S.? Is Bibi readying Israel? Right now it's February 18th, 2026, the evening of here in Israel. And at the moment, we've seen a lot of activity recently of even more metal and other assets to the region. A lot of aircraft and fuel. It seems as though there is a non-zero probability that the tensions are increasing and that there is an increasing probability that something will happen. We've seen more videos of horrors the IRGC has undertaken in Iran against the Iranian people in recent days, while people were literally at funerals mourning their loved ones. And we've seen more horrors by the IRGC in other locations, not just at funerals, even on random streets where they just decided to mow certain people down for whatever reason. I've heard from people in Iran that the IRGC is literally still hunting down people that were involved in the protests, the demonstrations, the acts of revolt, fighting against the IRGC, etc. Even peaceful protesters who just participated in the peaceful protest are being hunted down, arrested, beaten, tortured, and killed. Sometimes, apparently, they're just going into neighborhoods where they know there are people who supported the protests and the movement against the government. Others literally mowing down people in the street. So, I mean, Iran is not a very small country, and it's a big country, relatively, certainly compared to Israel, many times the size, both in landmass and in people. So these things can happen in many places, and because the internet is still kind of iffy, let's just say, in Iran, the information we're getting, which is, again, from local sources in Iran, is the best that we can gather at the moment. So we don't have exact numbers on every single event. There are some uncertain events, but many events are not known. And where we do have certain data, it's because we have multiple sources that are credible and that have been, there to witness it and have seen actual evidence and been able to count the number of people who were harmed or killed. So that is a very rare set of data compared to the overall data, where people just say, I was at a protest and people got shot, or I was just walking down the street and people got shot, or I was in my house and I overheard gunshots and I looked down outside of the house and I could see a firefight, or I could see IRGC troops setting a market on fire, or, shooting into a crowd of people, or using snipers to shoot people from the rooftops. And that is one of the reasons why we're seeing the U.S. now, even though it's still technically in some kind of weird negotiation status with the government of Iran, we are seeing more assets deployed to the region. As you may know, there's at least one U.S. aircraft or U.S. aircraft carrier strike force or strike group in the area of the Straits of Oman, Arabian Sea, that whole area. And there's another one on the way. At least one more aircraft carrier strike group is on the way. One is already a significant amount of firepower. Let's just be clear, it's more firepower than 10 or a dozen armies of the world combined. So having two there really sends an even much more massive signal than the already massive signal that is there, on top of the 30 to 40,000 reported troops that are in the area, and any number of jet fighters and bombers that are stationed in bases around the region. And of course, the fact that certain aircraft don't need to be stationed right in the region in order to carry out a mission effectively, as we saw last summer when the B-2 bombers flew directly from the US in different directions, only to surprise everyone when they hit much earlier than anybody who even knew about those things would expect, because A, neither of them was even seen on radar because they're stealth bombers, and B, because they left at two different times in two different directions. And the ones who flew the counterintuitive way got there first. So it just goes to show, the strategy is being rolled out. Let's see what happens next, right? Is it going to be a swift act of kinetic warfare? Is it going to be something longer than that? Or is there not going to be any kinetic warfare at all? Is it just going to be saber rattling, followed by a backing off, right? And we're only going to find that out after the fact, from when it's initiated, if anything at all. Or if nothing will happen, then the US will clearly signal that it's pulling back and that we've basically abandoned the people of Iran to the bloodthirsty dictatorship that oppresses them in Iran. I can tell you, the people of Iran want American intervention, the majority of them anyway. Yeah. In the many thousands of people that have communicated with me, just in this past month alone, directly from Iran, and many thousands of dissidents from Iran who live elsewhere, just from them alone, I can tell you the vast overwhelming majority of them want to see America do something. And this is even including the messages that I got from pro-Ayatollah and IRG Iranians, or people claiming to be Iranians in Iran and around the world. Their number is not more than 15% of the messages that I've received. And I'm talking about messages received on videos that have received 40,000 views, 50,000 views, 100,000 views, 200,000 views, 1.5 million views. So when you get that kind of views, you get a lot of different messages from a lot of different people. And there's literally tens of thousands of them. DMs and comments and all kinds of messages. Emails, whatever. Messages in different platforms. Sure, you can say, well, only people who are anti the IRGC would watch your videos. That's actually not true, right? They make an effort to view content that opposes the government in order to troll and post comments that, bash the opposition. So it's not correct to presume that the 15% are somehow underrepresented, that the population that supports the RGC is underrepresented because they're simply not. And we know by their pattern of activity. We can see it across all different channels that cover this kind of stuff. We do the analytics on them, and I have. We're seeing anywhere from 10 to 30%, with the vast majority being at 20 or below on different channels in terms of positive comments, negative comments, pro-Ayatollah comments, anti-Ayatollah comments, pro-IRGC comments, anti-IRGC comments. So we know the average is somewhere between 15 and 20% of pro-Ayatollah and IRGC comments, and around 80 to 85% anti-IRGC and Ayatollah comments. So it's really quite easy to tell. And again, you can tell me, well, maybe the pro-IRGC people just aren't using social media as much because whatever reason. No, they're using it as much or more because they have more access than the average person who is not pro-IRGC or pro-Ayatollah, right? It's the limited subset that gets the privilege in that society right now, right? It's the people that support the shenanigans of the dictatorship that get to enjoy full unrestricted access to the internet because they've been vetted and it is known that they're not going to do anything anti-government. Right? They're just going to use the internet in a normal way. And if anything, post pro-Hamas, also pro-Hamas, but pro-Ayatollah and pro-IRGC comments. And we're still going to keep shitting. So, yeah. So, again, those are some of the reasons we know based on large number data. And you can say, well, it's not large enough. Well, these are fairly large samples, larger than most public opinion polls. And the error rate is less than plus or minus 2%. Right? It's around 1 3/4%, between 1.5 to 1 3/4%. In terms of the standard deviation of error. Yeah. So, is it fair to say that the people of Iran want America to do something? Yes, it is absolutely fair to say that. Have the large protests in other countries been largely for the Ayatollah or the IRGC? Well, of course, in other countries, that you can say, well, of course, that's skewed towards anti-Ayatollah and anti-IRGC because that's where the dissidents live. Of course, many pro-IRGC and pro-Ayatollah people live there as well, but not nearly in as great a number, which is why they have not managed to muster any protests in support of the Ayatollah or the IRGC of any significant size, right? All of their effort was spent and wasted on their support of Hamas for the past 2 years and some months, while they were out making left-wing idiots chant pro-Hamas slogans, genocidal slogans for that matter, right? Anti-Semitic genocidal slogans. They were blowing their wad while forgetting about the fact that the very same ideology that they're supporting is slaughtering their own people now in Iran. Right? The people that supposedly, ostensibly, they pretend to support, but they don't. And if you've seen my videos recently, you know I've been making a lot of videos on Instagram and wherever, YouTube, and stuff like that. And you've seen me ask many people point blank, do you support the right of the people to be free from the dictatorship of the Ayatollah and the IRGC? And they say no. And when I ask them, do you care that 100,000 of them have been slaughtered in a month? They say no. And when I remind them that the 100,000 or so that have been estimated to be killed in that last month is far more than the 70 or so thousand people who have been estimated to have died in Gaza during the 2+ years of war fighting, in which almost a half of those people were Hamas terrorists, right? Maybe more, maybe less, whatever. But roughly a half. They don't care. It was never about caring for the Palestinians. And we've been telling you that all along. I have been literally telling you that, and so have other people. We've been telling you these people don't care about the Palestinians at all. Right? That's why I have been culturally reappropriating, if you will, the term pro-Pally, because there is no pro-Pally movement on the left. The libtards and the leftards are not pro-Pally. They're pro-Hamas, they're pro-terrorism, they're anti-Israeli, and they're anti-Jewish, and they're anti-Semitic. And don't let them fool you. Right? When they say those words anti-Zionist, they're just saying anti-Semitic. They're just saying they hate Jews. In supposedly coded language. What kind of a brain-rotted idiot would you have to be to think that that's coded language when more than 90% of Jews in Israel and around the world support the right of the state of Israel to exist? And if you support that, you're a Zionist. Even if you don't like Bibi's government or whatever government policies in Israel, if you support the right of Israel to exist, you are a Zionist. You may not like it, but that's a fact. So that's what's likely to happen next. We're likely to see shit or get off the pot time, to put it technically. Right? We are likely to see in the coming maybe weeks, maybe days, some kind of action, as I've been telling you. Since they skipped all the great opportunities to do it in January and the very early days of February, and now they've waited past the Super Bowl. I know, it sounds crazy. Why would a sports event have anything to do with war? Well, wouldn't be the first time, folks. And now that the diplomacy is seeming to fail, it looks like we're getting down to crunch time. And either a deal is struck, or some concrete bunkers will be. And interestingly enough, we've seen Ayatollah Khomeini come out of his hidey hole again and tell people about how the USS aircraft carriers will be sunk to the bottom of the sea by his fearsome assets or whatever. So anyway, that's what's on the deck. We will see what happens probably soon. Who knows? But stay tuned. Like this video. Subscribe to the channel to know more. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace. Shalom.